Pokemon Ranger is definitely one of the more well-known spin-off games, as it's much different compared to your typical journey. Despite that, it does share one major similarity with other Pokemon titles, that being the inclusion of a post-game. Upon beating the main storyline, you get the opportunity to capture more legendary mons, complete a mission involving the almighty Rayquaza, and unlock plenty of new features. So, as I've done in 20 other videos here on the channel, I'll be checking out all there is to do in Pokemon Ranger's post-game in order to see how it stacks up against the rest, and because I feel like post-games are often overlooked when it comes to video games. Also, it doesn't feel like I've done that many videos on this topic, but I guess I have. And you know, people have begun to call me the post-game prodigy. Okay, I'm lying, no one calls me that. Anyways, make sure to hit that sub button as it really does help out the channel, and without further ado, it's time to actually play through the post-game of Pokemon Ranger. Now, if you're like me and have never even touched this game, then here's a quick rundown of the plot and how the game works. Your adventure takes place in the Fior region, and instead of being the usual trainer, you're actually a ranger. I know, who could have expected that one? Depending on if you chose the male or female character, your partner mon will be a Minun or Plusle respectively. You're tasked with 10 different missions throughout the main game, in which you gotta either solve ecological issues, defeat criminals, or help out the citizens of the region. You can get some help using various Pokemon's capabilities, such as Pokeassists and field moves. Additionally, you don't just chuck Pokeballs at a mon and hope for the best, as instead you use a device known as the Capture Styler to add team members to your party. At the beginning of the game, you arrive in Fall City and meet Spencer, the leader of the Ringtown base. These bases sort of act as hubs for all the Pokemon Rangers, and Spencer is typically the one that assigns you missions. After accomplishing 9 of them, the 10th and final one sees you entering the Fior Temple and defeating Gordor, the boss of the Go-Rock Squad, which is the evil team in this game. Upon doing so, you find out that Gordor used to work with Professor Hastings, who is, well, the Professor of Fior, and Gordor's work was always overshadowed, causing him to turn villainous. Nonetheless, as you leave the temple, you're greeted with cheers and applause from everyone, ultimately bringing an end to the main part of the plot and marking the start of what you're all here to see today. So once you let the credits roll and boot the game up again, you'll be speaking with Spencer back at the Ringtown Ranger base. He'll let you know that now you can take Pokemon that you capture outside of their habitats, instead of having to release them all the time, which is pretty helpful since you'll need certain mons to access different areas within various locations if you want to complete your Ranger browser. Along with that, Professor Hastings will add the Ranger Record feature to your Styler, which basically shows a bunch of stats such as how many steps you've taken. And lastly, your partner's Plusle or Minun will officially become registered in your Styler. From there, you'll want to fly over to Fall City, as right before trying to enter the Ranger base, the Professor will send you a text. He wants to spend a night with the player. Okay, wait, that sounds kinda wrong. I promise all you do is just tell him about your adventure. Anyways, the next morning, Professor Hastings' assistant will inform you that Joelle, the ranger leader in Fall City, has a mission for you. Apparently, things have been running amok in the Saphir Sea, as Pokemon are inexplicably coming close to the shore, so you and Aria, who's a fellow ranger, are tasked to find the root of the cause. First though, you'll have to head below the dock to defeat some raging Staryus, save the people inside the tourist center from a gang of Krabbies, and wipe out an angry group of Carvanhas. Only then will Aria point out that there's some whirlpools off in the distance, allowing you to take the Sailor's Lapras and check things out. Upon doing so, you'll be dragged down into Kyogre's cavern and forced to capture it. This fight is still tough, but honestly, none of these post-game showdowns are as brutal as the battles with the legendary beasts at the end of the main storyline in my opinion. Nonetheless, the Saphir Sea finally calms down and the mission is cleared. But things are only just beginning. You see, you'll want to report back to Spencer in Ringtown, where he'll claim that Cameron, the ranger leader in Summerland, has planned a vacation for you. It sounds nice until you arrive in Summerland and realize that the town has been experiencing abnormal heat and a plethora of earthquakes. Cameron also explains that Solana, or Lunac if you pick the girl character, hasn't returned since heading off to the Jungle Relic. As a result, he wants you to find her and also figure out why Summerland's weather is going haywire. Yes, I'm sure y'all can already guess which legendary Pokemon is behind this all. You'll want to scoop up a Rhydon inside the Jungle Relic and use it to clear this giant rock so that your partner and their Plusle/Minun can be reunited. Make sure to go through the cave where your partner just was too, as you'll need one Poliwrath for a field move, and you may want another one for the upcoming battle. Either way, use one of the Poliwraths to evaporate this fire, which will lead you to a member of the Go-Rock squad. Yeah, despite taking down their leader, there's still a few rogue grunts trying to revive the organization. It's like Team Rocket and Johto all over again, but somehow even worse. After dealing with him, you'll eventually arrive in Groudon's dungeon and handle it the same way as Kyogre. With the continent Pokemon at ease, Summerland fortunately returns to normal. Despite that, you still gotta complete the trifecta. So make your way over to Wind Town, where Alita is waiting, and she'll explain that some shady people have been hanging around the Fior Temple. Because of that, you and Chris, who's another ranger, are entrusted with post-game mission number 3. You'll quickly encounter this guy who looks straight out of the military or something, and have to take down his 3 Ekans. Past him, instead of placing Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon on the 3 pedestals to open the door to the temple like you did earlier, you gotta use a Ralts, Kirlia, and Gardevoir this time around. After doing that, you'll come face to face with more of those strange people, who turn out to be more Go-Rock grunts. Wow, no way, I'm absolutely stunned. Luckily, none of the battles are too bad, but further up, 3 of the grunts fail to keep Rayquaza in check, leaving you to clean up their mess. Nah, thanks guys, I really appreciate it, you didn't have to be so generous. Capture the last of the Weather Trio and the Fior region will be saved. I do find this part a little funny too, by the way, as throughout the game, Chris barely talks, but upon laying Rayquaza to waste, he all of a sudden pops off. With the main missions finished though, the last thing to really do is complete your Ranger Browser. This means capturing all 210 Pokemon, which isn't too bad because you probably have almost 3/4 of that by now. It is worth mentioning though that you gotta obtain all 209 before being able to see Snorlax in the Sekra range. All that hard work does indeed pay off, as back in the Ringtown base, the whole crew is there to celebrate your achievement. Not only do you receive a certificate of completion, but also this cool little icon on the top screen. And normally this would be all you can do, as each of the missions involving the mythical Pokemon in the RangerNet were only accessible in 2006 after pre-ordering a ticket for the 9th Pokemon movie in Japan. Quick side note, there may have been another method, so let me know if I'm forgetting something. However, I found a way to gain access to them, and because you usually wouldn't have the RangerNet until beating the main game, I figured I'd include them in this video. As for the first mission, Spencer is very bothered by the fact that he failed to tame a Deoxys in the Lyra Forest, ultimately leaving the job up to you. This one's pretty straightforward, as you'll track Deoxys through the Kraka Tunnel and defeat it in its attack, defense, and speed form. Deoxys will be in its normal variant on the 4th try, and it can be quite tricky to get, as it'll constantly switch forms and you can only capture it when it's normal. With Deoxys tamed, you can report back to Spencer, while he flames this guy named Murph over here by saying none of his jokes were funny. Hey man, that's tough. That's all for the first assignment in the RangerNet though, so it's on to Celebes. Back in Ringtown, Spencer tells you that some more Go-Rock members were seen hanging around the shrine in Lyra Forest, so he wants you to scope things out with Murph. You'll see a group of grunts go after Celebi, yet they barely put up a fight against you, allowing Celebi to be encountered and captured, while it sets up these Jack and the Beanstalk looking things. But yeah, that's really it, minus Smurf being excited that he got to do a cool mission for once. Mew is the main focus for the 3rd mission in the RangerNet, and this time it's Cameron who states that the mythical Mon has been seen in the Olive Jungle. This guy named Percy, who thinks Mew is just a mirage, tags along with you only to leave right at the entrance. Like, bro, what are you doing? Lo and behold, though, you don't even have to venture far to capture Mew, and after doing so, Professor Hastings makes an appearance before Cameron declares the mission a success. And now we've saved the best for last, as Manaphy's mission is arguably the most iconic thing from the original Pokemon Ranger. You'll first need to input this code into the RangerNet, and then witness Cameron discover the odd-looking egg by the beach. He delivers it to the professor, who attempts to take it to Ringtown, only to have it stolen by the Go-Rock squad. Yo, these guys actually don't give up, like, you gotta respect the determination. Anyways, Professor Hastings starts stressing out because the Go-Rock squad could, I guess, make a comeback using the Manaphy egg, So Spencer sends you and your partner out to the Lyra Forest yet again to hunt it down. By using a nearby Politoed's field move, you can face off with this Grunt's 3 Gravelers, as well as another one's 4 Rattatas and Zubats. Yeah, again, compared to the climax of the main story, these post-game battles are relatively simple for the most part. Anyways, it can get a little confusing at this stage, since the Grunts left a trail of mushrooms to help them escape the forest, but some are actually parasects, who will cause them to keep wandering in circles, forcing you to do the same battles over and over again. To prevent this, you gotta sidetrack and snag a Swellow to move the southeasternmost Parasect, which will lead the Grunts to a dead end. Somehow, you still let them escape even after dealing with a Venusaur and 2 Scythers, but then they run into Gorder. And in a neat turn of events, the former Go-Rock leader has a change of heart and decides to hand over the Manaphy egg. Things get wrapped up back at the base, and for those that don't know, you would now be able to transfer this egg over to the Sinnoh games in order to hatch it into a Manaphy. Other than that though, this journey has come to a close. Well, first of all, it was super refreshing to play through a Pokemon title that I've never experienced before, especially with how different Pokemon Ranger is compared to the typical games. As for the post-game, it was really solid. I liked the added plot lines, and I felt like it was the perfect length for a spin-off game. I know there's a couple other versions of Pokemon Ranger as well, so I'd be down to cover them too if they're anything like this. If you want to support the channel further, consider becoming a member as you get access to cool perks, such as videos early and receiving a shout out on the outro screen. For now though, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, deuces!